Giant struggle for me because I speak very, very quickly and I tend to be long-winded. What's that? All right. Well, thanks, guys. Hello, I'm Nancy Michael. Here at Notre Dame, I serve as the co-director for the Neuroscience and Behavior major in the College of Science. My position here likely implicitly implies that I would really enjoy reading, when in fact, I do not. But I do enjoy learning, and once I discovered the topic of learning that fills me from the inside, I have embraced reading as one means by which I can learn about all the stuff that I love, the brain and behavior. All that said, readings like the ones for today's session are still really tough for me. So let's dive in and see what we can sort out. The idea of rest in high achievement culture can easily seem like a joke. We hear all the time terms like self-care. People tell us to get a good night's sleep, but when that's positioned against the reality of all the things we're supposed to do to keep up or build our resume, the idea of rest can almost seem laughable. But the reality is that amidst all of the demands and expectations placed on our time, something will ultimately give. And in the absence of rest, and the kind of rest that the cells of our bodies actually need and expect, what all too often gives is us, our own wellness. And that is simply not okay. In today's reading, Pieper quickly moves away from leisure as vacation and introduces the idea of leisure as a form of stillness that is necessary preparation for accepting reality. That only the person who is still can hear, and whoever is not still cannot hear. And this idea of stillness is an articulation of rest that much more accurately reflects what neuroscience is learning about what the human brain needs to actually establish and maintain the wellness that can only be achieved when we know ourselves. The human brain is an extraordinary organ made up of over 172 billion very specialized kinds of cells. From the order, organization, and communication within and across these cells, your personhood, your humanness emerges. Another crazy thing about the human brain is that despite all of the amazing technology that human brains have invented, the expectation of rest, friendship, community, social belonging, and so forth, remain set by the obligate rules of biochemistry that evolved eons ago. In other words, no matter how technology has changed, our brains still keep the type of quietude described by Pieper, our innermost ability for stillness, the kind of stillness that can open the soul. The biological need for quietude is also supported by some of the latest cognitive research exploring a distributed network of brain regions referred to as the default mode network, or DMN for short. The DMN is responsible for processing and associating all of our internally focused thought processes, such as self-reflection, daydreaming, mind-wandering, recall of personal experiences, and picturing the future. And the function of the DMN is suppressed when attention is placed on an external stimulus. You might think about it like this. It's critical for your individual and community well-being to have time to process all the stuff of the day. Friendships, life, learning, joy, sorrow, heartbreak. We only get this all sorted out with what the field calls idle brain time. So, anytime you're studying, in class, hanging out with friends, doom scrolling online, or staring mindlessly while binging your favorite shows, your focus towards these external environmental stimuli actively suppresses the essential activities of your default mode network. It's not to say that talking through life's events with people we trust isn't important. It is. But to be able to give ourselves the chance to incorporate all the stuff of living into figuring out how our experiences matter, how we fit into and exist as a part of the world around us, there's no way around it. We need regular idle brain time. High achievement and competition culture tends to train us into believing that these ideas of daydreaming, mind-watering, personal reflection, and imagining the future are all giant wastes of time. After all, you could never put good daydreamer on your resume, right? But here's the funny thing. All this idle brain default mode network time turns out to be some of the essential components for considering and consolidating self. The kind of brain function that is really required to actually know not what we do, but to know who we are. Although written a really long time ago and really hard for me to get through, Pascal's piece offers incredible insight into the types of environmental and social forces that draw us from our ability to sit with ourselves in quietude. And in the 21st century, in addition to all the environmental and social strife, we can add endless distraction from technology as yet another factor that can pull us away from essential default mode network time. The less time we spend practicing being still with ourselves, the more uncomfortable time in stillness often becomes. We become drawn to distraction, unable to focus, uneasy with only ourselves, unable to be still. All of this learning and opportunity becomes pointless and even harmful if we lose ourselves along the way. As you come to the end of your first semester on campus, and hopefully forever into the future, be sure to take time. Default mode network time. Are we being honest about how we spend our free time? Are we giving ourselves the kind of rest we really need, the kind of rest the cells of our body require? Do we have the courage to cultivate our ability to be still as necessary preparation for accepting reality? As members of the Notre Dame community, we proclaim values like dignity, solidarity, and our university mission promises service to justice. But Pieper reminds us that only the person who is still can hear, and whoever is not still cannot hear. If we cannot hear ourselves well enough to know ourselves, how are we to hear others and support them in ways that their unique experiences require? We are here not only for education, but for formation. And we impoverish that opportunity if we are unwilling or unable to do differently because of what we learn. We should be changed by our experiences. But we will never discover how we could grow if we don't learn to be with ourselves in the quietude of the function of our default mode network. Maybe, if enough of us commit to some good idle brain time every day, perhaps a daydreamer will become a resume virtue after all.